All right, Phil, it's that time of the day where you and I get to have a deep, fun, uninterrupted conversation. I've got notes. How do you feel? Ready to go? Warmed up?
I'm groovy, man. Like, I'm me, right? I'm pretty authentic. Um, I don't really shoot a lot of bullshit. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to meet you here today, Chris, and have a chat with you. And I look forward to our conversation.
Me too. Uh, it's funny is that when you're dealing with trauma and hardship, I tend to deal with it the same way I deal with everything in life, which is just directly. I really feel like we've been conditioned to avoid our feelings and avoid emotion and don't talk about this and sweep it under the rug. I mean, I even remember my grandparents like sweeping things under the rugs, proverbial rugs, and I don't get it because I feel like when you just tackle things, life is easier. There's less misstep, and things kind of just work out better and faster? I mean, I'll give you an example. Jay Lang, who I know really well, she acted kind of as your publicist for a little while. She's an amazing woman. She shared a lot of stories with me that she necessarily hasn't shared with other people, but her and I've also worked together for a few years now. And she and I were talking about a month ago. There was like an interview that she was doing for us, and she was trying to get some information or some photos. And I was saying, this is what I need. And she wasn't getting the result. And so I said, cool, no problem. Let me handle it. And I did, because I've been doing this for 20 plus years. And then I talked to her again afterwards. I called her, said, listen, it's all done, it's sorted. And she was so mad. I was like, dude, like, what's wrong? She said, I'm pissed off. And I said, okay, well, why? I'm pissed off at you. Okay, amazing. Tell me why. And she said, because of this. And I said, oh, you know what? I can totally understand how you feel that way, but like, that's not what I wasn't trying to do. I wasn't trying to undermine you. I was trying to just get this piece of information that I needed faster because I know how to do it, having done this many. And you know what? Issues squashed right then and there. No bullshit. And we just kept going on as friends. And this didn't become this thing that like, grew and festered over time.
Jay is an amazing force. Okay, like I've only known her probably, a little while now. Uh, I was introduced to her through my publisher,
Hmm.
and she is got endless energy, and she's very driven,
Hmm.
and she goes at 100 miles an hour when she's. This is from my perspective, from what I've learned about her so far,
Yeah.
and she's really passionate about. Uh, you put a task in front of her. She's very passionate about achieving that task. So
Mhm.
I can see that type of reaction because she's really, from what I know of her, she's really driven, and she's results driven, right? Like she's still working with me now setting up, but my book hasn't quite launched yet. So there was a soft launch in May where I just had some copies printed. But she's you know setting up the full launch and hooking me up with libraries and all these other different adjectives that I can't understand that have to do with publishing a book, right? Like you're going to be on PLR and you're in this library and you're on that library and you're in this form, you're on that form, and you've been hooked up with BC Book World. And it's like, I'm grateful to have somebody with that type of experience. As you know, Jay's published several books herself, right? So
Yeah.
she's taking me, the beginner, into this world and providing me a lot of great guidance.
Yeah. So like, what I was trying to almost set up there initially with being direct is I wanted to almost try. I've been told that your humor is self-deprecating. I've been told that, you've spent a long time dealing with mindset, and you and I established that character is the most important thing. So don't take this the wrong way, because this whole conversation is gonna be fucked up anyways. I wanted to try this exercise where I asked you simply, what is the best part of being a paraplegic or in a wheelchair?
I'm actually a quadriplegic.
See, I'm
I'll,
already learning.
I'll, I'll tell you what. Um, you talk about facing fears, okay?
Mhm.
I face mine head on, okay? I don't bury them, okay? there's a term in psychology called gunny sackers, all right?
Mhm,
I don't know if you're familiar with that term. A gunny sacker is somebody that has a whole bunch of issues, okay?
mhm.
And they don't deal with them right away. And then something triggers them, and all of a sudden they download on whoever the poor soul is in front of them, okay? So
Yeah.
they empty that sack, right? I have a tendency to deal with things as they happen, okay? I'm somebody that's extremely grateful, okay, for everything that I have in life.
Mhm.
And nothing came for free, right?
Yeah.
Am I on the right track in answering what you're asking me here?
100%, 100%. I was just giving you, the freedom to kinda clear the thought. So, long story short, going back to what we were talking about before we hit record, so to speak, is gratitude. You're a positive guy, you're a grateful guy, you're a hardworking guy, and you deal with things in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you. So when I very first broke my neck, okay,
Mhm.
it was trauma. All right. Um, I dove into my parents' swimming pool. I broke my neck in four places and crushed my spinal cord. I was paralyzed from the neck down. It's instant, okay? It's not like there's a 3-second delay or whatever. It is instant. So that second changed my life and the trajectory of my life
Yeah.
forever. And there was the initial ambulance to the hospital and then, in and out of consciousness. Um, just basically all kinds of things going on around me, getting stabilized. And my first memory of being in ICU, and I still didn't really know what was going on. Okay. I knew I couldn't move, but I was ignorant to what paralysis was and everything.
Yeah.
Was looking up and there's a guy standing over me. And I felt like I was in this cold, dark room because, of course, I can't see anything. They've got my neck stabilized.
Mhm.
And I asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm catheterizing you." And I remember saying, "What's that mean?" He said, "I'm draining your bladder." And I just remember saying, "Well, why?" And he said, "Because you're paralyzed. You've broken your neck." Um, and I just remember going, "Holy fuck, man." Like, I really did it this time, right?
Yeah.
And
So, uh, we'll come back to my initial question, but let's, like, unpack this story. So, you grew up in Ontario. Tell me a bit about your childhood and then what led you to the accident. Like, how old were you? When did that happen?
so I was born in Vaughan, right? Which is, well, you can now call it Wonderland,
Yeah.
basically. I lived there till I was 4.5 years old.
Okay.
I was the youngest of six kids. Um, and when I was 4.5, we moved to Woodstock, Ontario,
Okay.
a small sort of farming community. My father worked as a architectural draftsman for a company called Timberjack that made logging machines. My mother was a secretary for the provincial government. Um, we, I, I lived in Woodstock till just halfway through grade 8. I grew up sort of like in a middle class family. Um, we weren't, we weren't rich, we weren't poor, we were just in between. We always had a pool. A pool was something the family always had. Um, with six kids, there was chaos, of course.
Yep.
Um, but it was an interesting childhood. I don't want to say anything negative about it, but I would, because we were a middle class family and we didn't want for much. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, I started downhill ski racing when I was 4 years old, uh, and became actually kind of decent at it. So I would train for that in the fall. Raced in the winter and played ball in the summer. Nothing at your level, my friend, but played baseball.
Okay.
Um, Always had a love for baseball. When I was 12 and a half, 13, we moved to Cambridge, Ontario, and that's where life started to change for me a little bit. Um, like you, I got into I was exposed to alcohol more and stuff like that. There was a lot of alcohol in the family.
Mhm.
Um, I think it was hard at first meeting new friends. I remember going into the first class in grade 8 and a music teacher who today, by the way, we still talk to on Facebook, which is ironically. My grade 8 music teacher was trying to get me to sing a high note, and I couldn't. And he
Mhm.
pulled my hair and said, "I know you can sing higher, Neely." So this is back in grade 8, okay? I said something a little foul to him, and then when we out for our lunch break, the local group of kids jumped me because they thought I was trying to be too cool. And that was my introduction to Cambridge. So I got jumped by about 8 of them out in the schoolyard. Um, that's sort of started to give me an edge in life.
Okay.
I started to get edgier. I had lost interest in downhill skiing at that time. Still played a lot of ball. I was an average student. Um, Started to get into a little bit of trouble, let's say. I wasn't an angel. And I think it is because I was exposed to different things at a very young age. I dropped out of high school before I finished and did some different jobs.
Yeah.
And then at the age of 18, 19, I learned the art of doing ceramic tile and marble work.
Hmm.
And I started my own tile company when I was 19 years old called Dynamic Ceramics. It was in the 80s and there was a housing boom in Ontario. And I became quite good at it. Ended up having 4 or 5 of my friends working for me. I was living life pretty fast, partying pretty heavy, um, making some stupid decisions from time to time.
Mhm.
Alcohol was a very negative factor in my life.
Can I, uh, can I ask you just to jump in for a second? So, I appreciate all the background so far. Do you think the partying and the fast living was you running away from something from your childhood, maybe running away from those bullies that beat you up? Like, talk to me about the trajectory from, that jumping change almost.
I think it was at home. My parents fought a lot, like
Okay.
almost every single night. It became routine. It was an escape for me.
Okay.
Um, when you messed up at home, right? Which I did often. I'm not blaming anybody. Okay. I take ownership for my life. But you were whipped with Hot Wheel track, right? And that's done. But it was the constant fighting. And, I think, and, monkey see, monkey do, right? I started smoking cigarettes like at a really young age, 8 or 9. I started drinking alcohol probably at 10 or 11. Um, I went through different phases of that where I did a lot of stupid shit. Um,
Mhm.
Nothing ever good in my life has ever happened with alcohol, Chris. And so I think, yeah, you're hitting on a great point there. I think it was me trying to avoid the negative reality of what was happening around me in life. But at the same time, I don't blame anybody for that. I always take ownership. But
Yeah.
yeah, the drinking played a negative part of my life for sure. Um,
I'm asking for context, but also because I really wanna start to, as you tell your story, be able to look backwards and pinpoint where the mindset started, like, youngest of 6, a lot of challenge at home, starting your own businesses. These are already things that will push someone, in certain ways. For you, it sounds like it pushed you into being self-determined, into looking for something better, into working hard, and I'm so curious about your mindset, which is the main reason we connected today, before and after the accident. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, is that aha moment. But keep going, keep telling me with the background.
my mindset, Chris, has always been can't is a four-letter word for won't.
Mm,
Okay. If somebody tells me I can't do something, I work so hard to prove them wrong. Right. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you today.
yeah,
Because when I hate the word can't, okay? And there are so many realities in life where you just can't do something, okay?
yeah,
But let's distinguish between can't or won't. So, in my current career, I interview prospective students for a living, okay? And so many times I've heard, I can't do this. And then I look at them and you have these deep conversations is it really that you can't do it? Or is it you're not willing to put the effort in to overcome these challenges to do it, right? I got a term for people like that, and I call them yes butters. So a yes butter is somebody that has a problem, you provide a solution, and they have a yes but reason why they can't do it. So I think I've always had the warrior mindset, Chris. And as a young age, like being the youngest of 6, okay? Like, I got physically beat up by my brothers, not constantly or anything, but, I was tough kid. I was a tough kid, right? So I've always had the mindset of, you know, overcoming stuff, focusing on something and achieving that goal.
yeah,
Like starting the tile company, right? I remember doing one of these houses, and it was my math teacher from grade 11 who told me I'd never go anywhere in life. And he come in to look on the progress of his house. And he looked at me and he said, Nealy? And I said, yeah. Remember you told me I'd never go anywhere in life? He says, oh my God, who are you working for? I said, no, this is my company and these are the guys that are working for me. We're here doing your house. We're doing several houses here in the subdivision this weekend. He started to follow me around the subdivision after that. It was crazy. Like he was lonely. He was going through a divorce, right? So he dropped by with 12 packs of beers at the end of the day and he just wanted somebody to talk to. I said, it's so funny in life, you know. Um, you remember telling me I'm never going to achieve anything, and here I am. I'm 19, 20 years old. I've got my own business, and I've got some of my friends that are college graduates working for me part time.
yeah.
Kind of like a full circle moment, right? So that's always been kind of my mindset, Chris. Right? Is I I don't welcome challenges, but I think I have a different way of dealing with them. You know, I
Yeah.
I I don't give in. I don't give up, right? And
Well,
not everybody is like that, and I don't expect that from everybody.
I think that everyone can be like that. And I agree with you. I think that everyone's born differently and we have different experiences throughout life that will allow us to have that mindset or not. But I do believe that we can change our minds at any time. That's the beauty of the mind, is we're in control of it and it's our choice. You said yes, butter. I learned from my ex, yes, and because she was in the film and acting world. So for me, it's never like
Sorry, you learned yes, what? Sorry.
yes, and as in cool. What
Okay.
else? And then
Yeah.
I told you my trajectory over the last few years. I just got to a point where I was already driven. I was already hardworking, but I had to learn to not let the stress in anymore. Right? Like I believe that pressure is positive, stress is negative, and I just turned everything into a task. I think it was a Navy SEAL that had left that world and gone into the business world, and he's like teaching people to look at emergencies as just another task, that there's no such thing as an emergency. Everything is just a different level of urgency in a task, and the only way that you handle every single one of those is the same way. You just do it. You just address it, and sometimes it's more complicated to address, sometimes it's less complicated, but no matter what, all you can do is just do it. So I'm like you, but it took also a lot of that pressure to finally give me that breakthrough and that aha moment where I said, you know what? Nothing can stop me now. Everything's good. Just keep bringing it on, life. Keep layering it on because I ain't stopping.
You know, I don't know if you use this at all, but I learned how to compartmentalize things, okay?
Hmm.
So let's say you got 7 different issues or 7 different projects going on. Put them in a box, right? You nail at them one at a time, or sometimes you have to take on more than one thing at a time, but try not to consume yourself with taking everything on at the same time, you know? Um, I'm currently working with a new director and she's technically my superior. Um, and I have chats with her every day about, you're a good person. Okay. You need to just compartmentalize things because in her current role, um, she's dealing with a whole bunch of different issues. And I'm saying to her, just wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, say, you're a beautiful, intelligent lady. You've got this. Remember, compartmentalize things. You can't solve all the issues in front of you in one day. So I really, I really try and live my own life that way. And when I'm
Yeah.
trying to provide guidance to somebody that's under a lot of pressure with, you know, a whole bunch of things coming at the same time,
Yep.
it, I think it's a technique that works, right?
You know what's funny
And
is
you
like,
yourself have gone through so much. Sorry, I apologize.
no, 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 go
I'm
for it.
sure you've mastered some of that yourself.
I don't know if I've mastered anything per se, but I just constantly try to get better at these things. It's funny, my business partner Lance, a couple years ago, we were talking about work and things that are maybe stressful is the wrong word, but that are frustrating or difficult to deal with. And I was explaining how, man, like I'm getting 400 to 500 emails a day, and I'm constantly dealing with this deluge of emails, running a website and running a publication and getting pitched by artists. And at one point, he said, "Dude, the emails are never going to stop. In fact, the emails will probably get worse. So all you can do is be good with the relationship to emails." And he was absolutely right. And what that forced me to do is simply look at the emails in a different way and realize like the waterfall is never going to turn off. So just be okay with the waterfall. And then when you do that, then you start to have breakthroughs. And for me, the breakthrough was so simple because I was looking at the top of my inbox and always working down. And I woke up one day and I said, why am I not looking at the bottom of the inbox and working up? And as soon as I switched that one thing, my entire relationship with emails changed because now I wasn't stressed about being behind because I was dealing with oldest first. And this might be a simple concept to some people, but for me, I hadn't thought of that before. But the only reason I had that breakthrough was because I said to myself, who cares if the emails keep coming? Let them keep coming. How can we task this better?
I can totally relate to that. Okay. Um, I deal with anywhere between 50 and 100 prospective students at a time on my current job.
Right.
I'll turn on my email Monday morning. There will nothing on your scale, but there will be 70 emails there. Um, and then of course, you got probably 5% of spam or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's a juggling act, but again, for me, it's compartmentalizing, right? Um, I couldn't imagine 6 to 700. Um, but I deal with that on a smaller scale. And my phone never stops ringing. My emails never stop coming. But you know what? You can only do so much, right?
Hmm.
And I find it's a waste of my energy to stress about things that I don't have control over, right?
100%. So we've kind of already established now that your mindset was already set up in this specific way before the accident. But like, let's continue with the story. So you're 20, you're successful, you got your own business, you got half a dozen guys working for you roughly. You're having awesome victories, like being able to say, "Hey, you said I wasn't going to amount to anything. Look at me now." That's where we left off. Keep going.
So I was, I had a contract in Cambridge, Ontario. I had a contract in Orangeville, Ontario. I had a contract in Guelph, Ontario. There were weeks where we were working 60, 70 hours plus a week. We were known as the crew uh, that would go in and work 24, 36 hours straight to get the job done. When you're building houses, usually one of the last things to be done, because you're following um, the framers and the drywallers and tapers and everything else, is the tile work, right? And they were already under time crunches from other crews getting behind. We had a really, really good reputation. But I was partying too much. Okay. Like I was drinking, I was indulging in other things, and probably foolishly spending some of my money at the time for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I think alcohol is, it's in my bloodline. Okay. Um, the day I broke my neck, we had just put on a killer week of work. We probably worked 65 hours. It was Father's Day in 1988. We were at a lake in Ontario. It's called Emerald Lake, and I'd partied heavy the night before. Um, and it was a super, super hot day. And I remember I wasn't, I was burnt out. I fell asleep under a tree for a few hours. I woke up. I said, "There's no way I'm driving home." I had my van, and I had one of my friends drive back to Cambridge from the lake that was just outside of um, Cambridge. And I thought, okay, we were about to head to my friend's place for a barbecue.
Hmm.
I said, "Oh, we're gonna stop by my dad's place. I'm gonna have a quick dive." So we used to have a shed next to the swimming pool, above ground swimming pool. And we would dive from there. And my father hated it when we dove from that shed. He had told us 100 times before, "Don't you dive from that shed. Don't you ever dive from that shed." And we did. There was a half a dozen of us that did it all the time, right? And so to do the dive, it was a hop, skip, and a jump. I hopped, tripped, hit the water really, really bad. And that's when I broke my neck. I blew up C6 vertebrae. I fractured seventh. I misaligned three and four, and I crushed my spinal cord. Um,
Was from hitting the water, not the actual pool?
that was hitting. So diving in fist first,
Okay.
my fist hit the ground of the pool. I was told years later there was still a dent in the pool, and my fist broke part of my fall, and then my head hit the water and snapped my neck.
That's horrible.
I always say I only ever had one bad dive though, Chris. I, I had hundreds of good ones still. I still consider myself to be a relatively good diver. And ironically, one of my passions in life is snorkeling in the Caribbean. I've been down 15 times. Ironically, water is my happy place because I am in physical pain 24 hours a day. It never lets up. It's absolutely relentless. Um, and it's kind of ironic that my happy place is in the water.
That's so wild. Well, I mean, I can't imagine, first of all, what you've gone through in that moment, and then since. We've all got our own struggles and things. befall us, and then we see them differently than the outside in. So this happened to you on Father's Day weekend. Is that accurate?
It did. Yeah.
I That's so mind
5:45
blowing.
PM Eastern Standard Time. I know the exact moment because as I'm laying paralyzed on the deck and everybody's freaking out around me, like I can't move, right?
Yeah.
When I hit the water, I'm floating upside down, okay? Or face down, I should say. And I could hear all the voices around me. He's faking. Oh, he's just crying wolf because, I had a sense of doing that, right? It was something I would do would cry wolf in certain different situations. And they got me out of the water and put me on the deck. And my mom's crying over top of me. And uh, I said, "What time is it?" And she said, I don't know why I asked. She said, "It's 5:45." I said, "Give me a cigarette." Then I want to give me a cigarette, right? Like I'm lying there fucking paralyzed, right? All I could think about is give me a cigarette. I thought I was gonna die. Okay.
Mm.
Um, so she stuck a cigarette in my mouth. Um, and it was so unbelievably rough the first 2 weeks. Okay. Um, all I wanted to do was die. I begged my brother to get a gun and come in and just shoot me. And there was a gentleman beside me, and he was in a coma, and his family were surrounding him every day, just tears. What had happened is him and his son were on trikes, okay? The three-wheel trikes that they used to
Yep.
have back then? Dangerous as fuck, right? Um, they were outlawed not long after that. But the son had cut him off on the trail. And so those first 2 weeks in ICU, all I'm wanting to do is have my brother try and kill me. I didn't want to live. And then he died. And then I had my aha moment.
Oh,
All the
wow.
pain and suffering that his family was going through and the trauma. And it was in that exact moment I said to myself, okay, I'm going to live and I'm going to make the best life I can for myself. And honest to God, that was the moment that I decided to never ever look back.
That's powerful stuff, man, and I love how you throwing in that dash of Phil Neely humor too, just to, keep things going. I asked about Father's Day because it's mind-blowing to me that you and I both had such profound, life-changing moments on Father's Day. I mean, I
And
mentioned
like I
to
said, the
you.
irony, right?
It's wild. I mean, like, I could have never in a million years expected that my little girl would die in my arms, let alone die, but on Father's Day of all days, and here you are telling me the same thing happened to you. So let's dive into the humor for a quick second. How much of your dad was like, "I fucking knew it. I knew this was gonna happen," and how much of it was, "Oh my god, you know, this is the worst thing possible."
Oh, so much, right? Like there was never "I told you so," right? That those words never came out. Okay. Um, when I went to do the dive, somebody screamed at me. Okay.
Mhm.
And it startled me. I would never say that is what caused it. Okay. But it was an accident waiting to happen. Okay. It was a tricky dive.
Yeah.
Um, there was never any moments like that from from my family saying, I knew this was going to happen, et cetera, ever. It was like they, I couldn't have asked for any more support or love um, from my family. And I didn't want them to suffer the way I watched that family beside me suffer. I dove in the pool. Okay.
Yeah.
I broke my neck. Nobody forced me to do it. In fact, I was warned so many times not to do it.
Mhm.
I wanted to do as much as I humanly possibly could to relieve some of their pain by not showing mine and by fighting and by being the warrior that I knew I could be.
That's
For me,
amazing.
the sorry, go ahead.
No, I sorry, I was just saying that that's amazing. It's so it's so selfless and also just so powerful that you had that mindset to do that because I don't think most people do, which is why I was trying to understand like if that was something programmed beforehand or not. When you jumped, I liken this to an experience that I had when I was a kid. You know, I'm riding a bike down a hill, not a big hill, but a small hill, and you have that oh shit moment where you know you've like totally misjudged this and now you're gonna eat shit and you're gonna fall off the bike and the bikes and then I got the wind knocked out of me and the bike fell on me. Thankfully I was fine in that incident, but you have those as a kid. You have those in life.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
have that in that moment? Like, were you having that "this ain't gonna land well" moment, or was it just psh, dive?
No, not even a little bit. Yeah. Not wasn't even a thought, right?
Mm,
You talk back about what what gave me this mindset. My grandmother had a brain aneurysm when she was 36. She had half her head carved out. She had a stroke. She was paralyzed down the entire one side of her body. She lived in Chinatown in Toronto alone till she was 77 years old. That
wow.
woman was stubborn, man. That's who got me hooked on the Blue Jays, by the way, too, was my grandma, who was a huge baseball fan, right? Um, I think a lot of her lives in me, right?
Mm,
Being stubborn, strong, not taking, no, being I remember in the last couple of years of her life, we put her into a care home in Cambridge, Ontario, and we used to sneak her in brandy. And the nurses would get upset. It's like, it's fucking brandy, right? Like she's in the last years of her life. Leave her alone, right?
yeah.
A lot of grandma lives in my spirit because she was a fighter, you know?
It's funny is I can relate to that big time, and I almost have, like, guilt, like, I know that my grandparents, both sides of the family, like, escaped former Czechoslovakia when the Russians were invading, and then they, came to North America with nothing, eventually met here. My grandmother had so many crazy stories about being in jail and arrested and all this stuff, and, things would befall them or happen to them, and I always had a hard time, like, justifying my existence knowing how much they had been through, and for me at a young age, that was, like, the marker of, "Okay, shut up, stop whining, because your family has been through much more. You can't be so entitled and arrogant not to, uh, honor that." That I think that was for me at a young age where a lot of this stuff started. But I want to dive into the mindset more. I love where we are in the story, and it's a perfect time for me to bring up this story that I just got reminded of this past week. I was watching something with my fiance upstairs, and the story of Morris E. Goodman came up. Have you heard of this dude?
No.
Okay, so this guy lived in the US. He was known as the Miracle Man, and he basically survived a plane crash, which left him paralyzed, unable to move, breathe, talk, or swallow. And he told himself, lying there, similar to you, as people they're talking over him, he's just staring at the ceiling. He said, I'm going to walk out of this hospital on my own by Christmas. And he did. And then he lived until he was 80 and just died apparently earlier this year. He became a motivational speaker and an author. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy that I'm being fed this story now ahead of chatting with Phil because it sounds so much like you, and it's so much like this stubborn, determined man who's like, I'm gonna look at the best possible bright side here, and I'm just gonna keep going."
That's wild, man, That's wild. Um, when I made that decision to never give up in ICU,
Yeah.
um, like my shoulders wiggled a little bit, right? That was it. I mean, I couldn't do fuck all. Um, And initially, when an accident happens like this to you, they're trying to keep you alive, right?
Mhm.
They're trying to fight off infections, like constant UTIs, urinary tract infections, constant this, constant that. Um, then came the first serious surgery. Okay. So they had already stabilized my neck um, for the first couple weeks. But before they could do surgery, they're waiting for the swelling to go down. Okay. So I was scheduled for surgery. And Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto was at the time, quote unquote, the spinal cord specialist in Canada. In fact, around the same time, they had a group of Japanese doctors there where they're showing them new techniques that they've been perfecting. These Japanese doctors were there because there was a massive earthquake back in Japan, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of people with spinal cord injuries and stuff like that. Anyways, they did the surgery on my neck. They pulled out all the bone. They had to go in through the front to get to the back because of the nature of how bad my neck was broken and how bone fragments were scattered all over. And they did the surgery. They pulled out the bone chips. They replaced the vertebrae in the back of my neck with part of my hip and part of a pig uh, bone as well. And then I had the steel cage screwed to my skull. The plan was it would be there for 3 months. Okay. It's called the halo, and there's nothing godlike about it. All right. Um, so this is steel cage screwed to your skull. Stabilized for a couple weeks. They had me on over 36 pills a day, doing all kinds of different injections. And, um, I'm not questioning anything. Okay. Like I'm just thinking, okay, they're doing everything they can to stabilize and keep me alive. And then it was start with gradual sitting me up, right? Because when something like this happens to you, when you do become stable, you can't sit up right away. Your whole body needs to be readjusted, right? You get dizzy and
Mhm.
pass out. So each day they would incrementally lift the bed up a little bit higher. And it got to a point where they could put me into a wheelchair and push me around a little bit. But there was burning pain going on in my body. And the only way I can describe it, Chris, is that somebody had a propane torch on me and they had me in a vise and they were running it from my head to my toe, up and down again. And I would complain about this and complain about it. And they'd say, it's normal, right?
Mhm.
It's just part of the recovery stage. And I would tell them over and over again, it's not normal. There's no way any human being could put up with this amount of pain, right? I was eventually given an opportunity because then, quote unquote, therapy was going to start, right?
Yeah.
So they said you could stay in Toronto or you could go to Sunnybrook, which was a rehab center in Hamilton, Ontario. So I decided Hamilton because geographically it was closer to my family. And it was the first family meeting was about a week after I got there. And I'm sitting in a room on a gurney, right? Just staring up at the ceiling. I can hear all the doctors and the professionals talking about me like I'm in a third party, right?
Yeah.
You need to understand, you need to accept the fact that Phil's going to need 24-hour care for the rest of his life. At best, he's going to be able to feed himself and maybe put on a shirt, right? And I'm just sitting there listening to this, and my nurse is with me, my primary nurse, and I snapped. And I said, you're talking about me like I'm not even in the same fucking room. I'm here. You're using definitive language like, he's not. Every one of you know that we use less than 15% of our brain. Who are you to say that I'm not going to realign my brain? I'm not going to realign my thought patterns, and I'm not going to be able to create messages down different neural pathways that have never been accessed before and move. Why don't you use language like the odds are against them, but we don't know everything? Just like your friend there that you just talked about, that person.
Yeah.
I'm walking out of this fucking hospital and I said to my nurse, "Get me out of here," right? And as she's wheeling me on the gurney out of the room, I can still hear them talking about it's one of the stages of grieving. It's called denial. And I'm saying, "Fuck you," as I'm laying down my and and I started to study anatomy and physiology, and I started to learn meditation. I gradually started to get a little bit more movement back.
Nice.
That the pain, though, Chris, was never ending. The burning pain, right?
Yeah.
And I finally snapped and said, "You have to do more exploratory stuff." So they did these things called tomograms. Okay. So a tomogram is an X-ray machine that circles around every millimeter of the area they're trying to pinpoint. And what did they find? Bone chips pressing on my nerves. The reason that it's burning from head to toe is because the nerve started in the neck. They did another surgery. They removed all the bone chips. I remember the surgeons were Dr. Bednar and Dr. Wells, Hamilton General Hospital. You don't forget people's names that change your lives, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I remember my parents saying, they didn't really want to sign off on the surgery. Blah 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 blah. It's a high risk surgery. It'd only been done a couple times before. I think then, if my memory serves me correctly, it had been done 5 times. But this young surgeon, Dr. Bednar, said, "I really think it's going to help." Okay. So I signed off. They stuck a pen in my mouth. I put the X on the sheet. They did the surgery. They pulled all the bone chips out. They pulled out the first fusion. They put a titanium plate and a couple screws in the back of my neck. Um, and when I woke up, I was, what I'm about to say is kind of funny for me, right? Like I woke up and I'm out of it. I am hallucinating like crazy, right?
Mhm.
And I remember sitting in ICU and the nurses came and they said, "Your brother," and I wouldn't let people see me when I was having down days or sick, right? I didn't want people to see me at my weakest. "Your brother, wife, and two of your friends are out in the lobby. They want to come in." I said, "No way," right? Um, so my brother said no, and him and his wife come in and they're standing over top of me. My brother's a perfectly healthy dude, right? And he sees me, and I got tubes in every orifice in my body, right? Another cage on my head. Uh, I'm freaking out, and I'm like right out of my mind on Demerol, morphine, you name it. I told them they put me in a mental institution. I never asked to go to Vietnam, and I'm freaking out. And I'm saying this, and the next thing I know, I can't see my brother. Well, what I later found out is he had a complete seizure and pissed his pants and dropped to the floor.
Oh my god.
Um, then and this is what I'm told later, right? And then my two friends are outside and they take my brother out in a gurney and his wife bawling his eyes out. And they decided to respect my wishes and not come and visit me. But Chris, the pain was gone. The burning was gone. They got the bone chips out, right? And that's when healing started to progress, right?
Wow.
And, it was little things at first. I could move my arm. I could move my other arm a little bit. And I ended up getting, over a period of time, I ended up getting full range of motion in my arms. My hands remain paralyzed. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I started to be able to transfer myself, right? Well, I still had a steel cage on my head, and I started to get the moniker of Superquad. That's what they referred to me as, right? In rehab. And I remained really positive and optimistic. And I, by default, became sort of the resident social worker for all the other patients in rehab. So, they'd be struggling, having bad days, whatever. the physiotherapist or occupational therapist would say, go speak with Phil, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't send them to the social worker. They'd send, go talk with Phil, right? Like Phil will help you, right? I'm a really blessed dude that I maintained the attitude and remain positive. Um, so I started to regain enough strength that I started to be able to push my wheelchair myself, right?
Yeah.
And the rehab center I was in was connected to a nursing college through a tunnel um, down in the basement, and it had a very low grade. So I was constantly in the gym. I went to occupational therapy once. Okay, my hands were paralyzed flat, so I thought this is a waste of time. You're sitting there trying to put pegs into. It's like, no, I need to work on my muscle mass, right?
Mhm.
So I was a gym rat for as much as I could. I mean, I remember the first time I was able to bench press half of a hockey stick. Like, what a great moment that was for me, right? Incremental little improvements like that. I decided, okay, I still have energy in the evening. I'm going to start going to college. And everybody laughed. Right? And I became close with my primary nurse. So she joined me. And I remember I would get on the bus and go to college a couple nights a week. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Like the social worker suggested, oh, you should do computers because you're not going to be able to do anything else. And it's like, this is 1989, right? Like, I don't want to do computers. That's not interesting to me, right? Like, I'm a people person, right?
Yeah.
So I remember the first two courses I took were Lotus 1, 2, 3 and DOS. And I'm typing with a 3 foot straw in my mouth and thinking, you know what? Fuck this. This isn't for me. So I got mangry and I took about a month off of not going to college and I continued to work on me. And I really, really got into meditation. In fact, the shortest chapter in my entire book is called The Big Toe. So I'm meditating every evening, just focusing on my body. And for about 3 weeks, I'd been staring at my big toe. And all I kept thinking about is, okay, the message is going to go this channel. The message is going to go this way. You're going to push past that damaged part of the spinal cord. You're going to redirect your message. You can do this. You're just going to refocus. You're going to redirect that message to your big toe. Not trying to move my leg, not trying to do anything, trying to get my big toe to wiggle. 10:45 on a Thursday night. I scream, "Okay, I moved it." And like I'm in a room with three other guys that are, quadriplegics and shit like that. And they wake up, they're going, "You moved what?" My big toe. I moved my big toe, right? And they're laughing, they're going, it's a spasm, go back to bed, Nealy, right? I'm going, no, no, look, I moved my big toe, right? And then my roommate Brad, like, he looks over, he goes, holy shit, he's moving his toe, right? And then the whole room starts screaming, and nurses start coming in, they're going, what's going on, right? Like everybody's sleeping, yada, yada, yada. I'm going, I moved my big toe. Oh, it's a spasm. It's like, no, I moved my big toe, right? And it's like I'm having this freak out moment, Chris. And then they go, oh my God, it's a miracle. He moved his big toe. I said, it's not a miracle. It's the mind. Okay. I told you, I'm going to walk out of this fucking place. It's the mind.
Yeah.
It's not succumbing to all your negative thoughts and all your negative projections. This is me retraining my brain.
Mhm.
They don't know why, right?
I
And then
wonder, just to jump in, I wonder, had you had that experience that you were describing where people weren't speaking in definitives like "he will never," I wonder if that, hadn't happened and if people had been saying, "Oh, well, there's a chance this," that you wouldn't have had the juice to get frustrated and mad and believe it so much and do these things. I wonder if that was the perfect setup for you to have these breakthroughs.
right back to my math teacher, Chris.
Yeah.
you're never gonna amount to anything, right?
So you see, we need that pressure in life. We need that drive. Let me go back for a second. So you're lying on the deck of the pool, family's around, mom's freaking out, you got a cigarette in your mouth. Did you already know then that things were bad, or was it only
Oh, I was
after
fucked.
you knew already then?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't move. That's what I said to my mom. The exact words I said was because I could barely talk, right?
Yeah.
I said 2 words, "I'm fucked."
Oh, wow.
That that was it.
That's so heavy.
There was so much chaos that ensued after that, brother.
I'm just happy that you're okay and that we're here having this conversation, with everything that's going on. So you're in the hospital, you're in deep despair, and then you have that aha moment with the person next to you passed away. Did you ever feel bad for yourself afterwards, or was it just the kind of pure positivity ever since? Do you still have down days? Talk to me about, the reality of Phil's life. Because I know that it's easy to say, ever since I've been like championing this, and I am the same way, but we have our moments. We have our days, sometimes weeks.
If you're ever talking to anybody like me and they tell you they don't, they're full of shit, okay?
Okay.
I have down days all the time, okay?
Yeah.
But I don't succumb to them, okay? And I know this might sound like a cliche, okay? Like, Chris, I am in tremendous, nonstop, ever-ending pain from nerve damage, okay?
Hmm.
It never stops, 24 hours a day. When you see me adjusting myself and rocking back and forth, that's me trying to divert my attention from my pain. Every single morning, I look in the mirror and I say, "You've been a quadriplegic for 35 years. You live alone. You do your own cooking, cleaning, dressing, shopping. You have a full time job. You have so much to be grateful for. Today is going to be a good day and you're going to help somebody today." Okay. That's how I start each day. And come 7, 8 o'clock at night, the pain is overwhelming. Sometimes I say, why won't it ever stop? Right.
Yeah.
And then I say to myself, don't forget your purpose in life.
Mm.
Like I have these conversations with myself. Like, and I believe my purpose in life is to help and inspire other people. Right. That might sound corny to some people, but I honestly believe I exist and this happened to me to become a vehicle to empower other people.
Hmm. I can relate to that so much because I've always felt like I was, destined for something larger than myself. And it was in having the hard 3 years, losing my daughter, and all those things that I realized that it's hard to help if you haven't also endured, something really difficult. It's maybe it's not hard to help, but it's harder too. And so having gone through these things, it allowed me to change my mind and then, relate to people like you better and feel inspired to want to impact positive change. You're doing it on such a profound level, and I'm in awe of you. And when Jay first pitched me, I said, this is such an incredible story, and I'd be, honored to have this conversation. Thank you for being so raw with me. It sounds like you've been that way forever, though, that this has just been from day one. I'm just going to deal with this and talk about it, and I'm not going to hide away from the world.
You know what, Chris? Not enough people are grateful, right?
Yeah.
It's it's such a nasty place right now, right? Um, I am so grateful to have an opportunity to talk with you, dude. Um, like what an extreme honor it is to be here talking with you right now and allowing me an opportunity to, you know, maybe potentially help one person that sees this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a special for me that I got this opportunity to talk a little bit, right? And yeah, the long and short of that time in rehab, Chris, is went back to college. I started to study psych and soc. I got movement in my right leg, full movement, but very weak.
Mhm.
I got a little bit of hip flexor in my left leg. The day I the day I left rehab, I'd already finished levels 2 and 3 of psych and soc in the evenings at college. I walked out the front doors. It took me on on crutches and a leg brace. I walked out the front door. I did what I said I would do, right? It took me 30 minutes to go 300 feet, but I actually, with crutches and leg brace, I walked out the front door.
Good for you. I I have this saying where bad things are just good things that haven't been realized yet. Like you cannot look at the death of a child, of your own child, as like a good thing. For sure. I mean, I wish that never happened. No one would ever want that to happen. However, going back to the beginning of our conversation, it did happen. So I have a choice as to how I respond to that. And I chose to turn it into something positive. Learn from it, share the story, teach other people, inspire other people. I have another little girl on the way now who's due at the end of this year. And a neighbor of mine said, I can't imagine the pain you're going through, but I have a sister who had the same thing happen to her, but that led to her next kid. And we can't imagine our life without this beautiful girl that is here now because of how things transpire. So I try to look at things in a positive way because the alternative is ridiculous. Take life, do something positive with it. And no matter how bad it is, choose to turn it around. And you have turned around the most ridiculous thing that most people could ever imagine. Help me understand something, because when I hear quadriplegic, I hear quad four, and I just imagine someone in a bed that can't move at all. So, can you help me and listeners, viewers, understand like the definition of quadriplegic, given the fact that you do have mobility in some areas?
So I am technically referred to now as a C7 quadriparetic.
Okay.
I don't know where they come up with C7 because like C6 doesn't exist anymore, right? I only know this because I used to read my charts in the hospital, by the way, at night. Um, I would say that rehab's a different place, okay? Like you get
Mhm.
pretty close to the nurses and stuff, all right? I'd be in there reading my charts at night and it started to get off medications and stuff. And then as I'm being released, I read my chart and it says C7 quadriplegic. And I said to the doctor, where did you come up with that? She goes, well, you've regained movement in all four limbs, right? So the medical term for you right now is a C7 quadriparetic. I said, how does it go to C7 though? Because C6 doesn't exist. And she goes, that's just, you have the same mobility of a C7 quadriparetic. So my arms, my triceps are still paralyzed. My hands were paralyzed flat for 8 years. Okay. But the brain signal went to you. If you put your hand flat, you're going to see you have three extensor tendons. Okay.
Mhm.
The brain signal went to the extensor tendon, the center one in your hand. And I had a surgery done called tendon surgeries. They reversed the tendon in my hand. So instead of the ability to open my hand is now in a paw, but I can close it.
Mm.
So they reversed the function of that tendon. So I have, they call it quadriparesis because I still have paralysis in all four limbs. I can't walk. I can stand up for a second and then I fall, right?
Yeah.
I mean, back then my main focus was to prove them wrong and walk. And then I would do that. And then I broke my leg a couple times because I had falls. And I thought, you know what? I'm not strong enough to walk. I need to focus on work and a career and everything else, right? I didn't give up. I proved my point, but I couldn't function when I was walking with elbow canes and crutches because I couldn't carry anything or anything. So I just decided, I'm going to focus on a career, right? Like, and that's what I did, right? Second week out of the hospital, I got a job purging files for the government of Ontario for $4 an hour. By the end of the first year, I was hired as a social service worker level two, um, for the government out of Hamilton. I'm so lucky I've never collected a disability check in my life, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that's how we define quadriparesis.
Okay.
Sorry, that's me doing a quote.
I'll take it. You know, you said something there that I just wanted to touch on quickly. Is this mindset, is this determination that you've had, and maybe it's grandma. Who knows? You know, I've got a bit of grandma in me too. She told me to choose love once upon a time ago, and I've been trying to choose love ever since. Um, you don't take any help. You live by yourself. You refuse assistance. I think that you even refused like disability, like some money. Keep me honest here, but like your choice has been for so long to just do it on your own.
Yes, I am really blessed. I was given a small amount of money um, after my accident, which I put into an investment, um, and it was small, comparatively speaking.
Mhm.
But I have never once collected a disability check in my life, um, and that I remain forever grateful and proud of.
As you
Um,
should.
I am really stubborn. I am getting, if I'm going to be 100% honest, getting to the point in my life where I need to accept the fact that I need a little bit of help. Like, I work during the day, 8, 9 hours a day. And like I said, I do all my own cooking, cleaning, laundry, everything else. Um, my ultimate goal is, as you know, I just published my book, would be to do public speaking and get out there and try and inspire people on a higher level.
I
Um,
mean, you're doing that, and that's my goal too. And I think that it's ironically for us, it's one step at a time. It's one moment at a time. It's one interview at a time. It's one day at a time. And there's a lot of repetition. You know, so that repetition that you did in rehab, that repetition that I had to do emotionally with my daughter is what leads to the bigger leaps and the bigger steps and then ultimately helping on a bigger platform. I think you're doing it, man. I think you're doing the thing. And I'm happy to hear that you said you want to accept that you need help because I'm an Aries, I'm a stubborn man, and I had long since been the I can do it myself kind of guy. But I got to a point in my life where I realized that I needed help. I needed, you know, therapy and emotional support to get better at helping myself and accepting. Man, what's the example? I have a therapist that said, listen, if you want to help the world, then you need to think of yourself as a Formula One race car. That means that you need the best team, you need the best oil, you need the best people and fuel and all the stuff that's going into this machine, into the driver. Because if you don't get that, then you're not going to win the race. You're not going to perform at your best. And so that for me was that aha moment with myself where I said, okay, now I know how I can be of the greatest service is I have to make sure that I'm putting on my oxygen mask every day as the best as possible so that I can put on as many other ones as I can.
that is fantastic advice, brother. Right?
Yeah.
That's powerful shit, man. It's great advice.
It's not mine. I thank Barb for that one. She's an amazing woman, but I definitely like this idea of sharing things. You know, there's this other concept of are you gonna let your stress or your struggle or your life fuck you, or are you gonna fuck it? It's a little crass, but that's how I am wired in my head. Where I said, "Is this gonna beat you, or are you gonna beat it?" And that's what I try to do all the time. Is I try to remind myself that I have a choice and I can do it. It sounds like you have been doing that for a lot longer than me.
And you said grasp. There's a theory that highly intelligent people swear a lot, right?
I mean, I like that. I
I
like
don't
the
consider
sound of
myself
that.
highly intelligent. What's that?
I like the sound of that. I'll take it.
I don't consider myself highly intelligent, but I'll tell you when I wrote the book, I wrote it because I want it to get everywhere, okay? And
Yeah.
I don't want it to offend anybody. There's not one reference to politics, religion, and there's not one foul word in the entire book. And Kyle Hawk, who helped me write the book, he's like getting the cage off my head, okay,
Mhm.
was super, super painful. And I remember asking for anesthesia. Now you don't need it, right? So as they start to unscrew the cage from your head, well, it puts pressure onto the other three bolts that are already in your head.
Oh.
And it feels like your head's being cracked like a vice. And I remember yelling and swearing, "You fucking God." I'm like screaming as loud as I can, right? And
Mhm.
Kyle's going, "You got to leave that in the book. You got to leave that in the book." Right. I said, "No, I can't have any foul language in there. I want people to be able to read this to their kids. I want this to be a lesson for, don't dive in shallow water. And,
Yeah.
you know, when you're feeling down, try and look for this for positivity." I have an outlook in life, Chris. Okay. And it's my philosophy for 40 years. Every single person I meet, I love 100%. Everyone. How much I love them after that depends on how they treat me,
Yeah.
right? So they all start off with 100% of my love. And, 3 months down the line, they've only got 80% of my love. That's because they did something that I didn't like, right?
Yeah. Love wins, man. Choose love. So you have this incredible book that shares this story that we talked about in more detail. I won't stand for this. You're helping people with their careers or education because you work as a counselor, correct?
Yeah, I'm a career advisor, but the book is meant for anybody that's ever faced struggle in their life,
Mhm.
physical or cognitive. It's for young, it's for old. It's to give a different perspective or my perspective on how to maybe handle challenges when they're in front of you, right?
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. What works for me doesn't work for everybody else. For years, I've been doing my job right now for 23 years, okay? And people have said to me, "You know what, Phil, you inspired me. You changed my life, You helped me so much." Like about 30% of the people that come to me know exactly what they want to do in life, okay? And about 70% need some guidance and nurturing. And I have a gift that was passed down to me from my mother, and that's to be able to read people. I could bring a friend over and she'd look at him for 1 second. She'd say, "That's a bad person." 2 years later, she was right. That person turned out to be a bad person. Uh, I'm, I have a gift for being able to find people's strengths, extrapolate them, and align them with careers that will make them independent. So that's how I've succeeded as a career counselor.
Mhm.
As a, when I worked as a social worker, I was empowering. The wheelchair is a tool in itself. Okay. So whenever and it still happens to this day. Okay. I just ignore it. It's white noise, but people stare at you in the wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
If I just want to go back a little bit because this strongly relates to what I'm trying to articulate now. The first time my brother ever took me out of rehab to go to a mall, and I still had the steel cage on my head. All I could see was people staring at me, and I was freaked out, right? It was around Christmas time, and there was this family staring at me, and the kids saying to their parents, "Ooh, look at him, what's wrong with him?" Blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying to my brother, "Take me back to rehab. I'm never fucking going out again," right?
Yeah.
He came back, and this is the humor of our family, dry humor. Came back the next week and had a big black sweater and a huge white lettering. It said, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And he said, "We're going back to the mall." Right?
Yeah.
My wheelchair is a tool to empower others often. Okay. They look at it and they think, "Wow, he can do it." He's talking from experience. Right?
Mhm.
I want to empower people. I wanna help people. I wanna help them reach their goals, right?
Yeah.
I think that's my purpose in life. I think that's why I'm in a chair, right?
It's funny because like I try to constantly come back to love and try to have compassion as much as possible. It's not how I always was. I'm very black and white, right and wrong. It was
You and
through the
I are
last
very similar.
100%, but it was through the last 3 years of my life that Barb and some of the other therapists that I've worked with and talked to have said, like, focus on oneness, focus on the whole piece of puzzle, not left, right, right, wrong. And so I can only imagine how hard it is for you to have people stare at you. But I wonder how much of that is simply because people are reminded of how fragile life is, or maybe they're looking at you empathetically, or sympathetically, or maybe they say, that scares me because I realize that that could happen to me, so maybe it's not a shame or a judgment. If anything, it's just life itself that is befalling them in those moments. Not to take away from the point of yours, I just wanted to share that thought.
No, and I would concur, and I think that's why I treat a lot of that like white noise now.
Mm,
My initial exposure was, they're looking at me like a freak.
yeah.
And now I purposely engage with people, right?
Hmm.
Um, let's say I go to the mall, right? And there's kids selling cookies or chocolate for their groups out front. In Langford here, it's almost every weekend, right? Because for the last couple of months, because they're trying to raise money for their ball teams and stuff like that. So they selling Krispy Kreme donuts for $20. So I'll say, I'll give you $20. I only want one donut, and I want to talk to you from it, right? And you have to agree that you're each going to eat a donut while we talk. And someone will always one of the kids will always say, "How come you're in a wheelchair?" And that's when I talk about shallow water diving. And I'll say, "Whatever you do, okay? Spring is here. I know you want to go swimming in lakes and stuff like that.
Mm,
I'm in a wheelchair because I dove in shallow water. Okay? I hurt my neck. I need you to promise me you'll never dive in the water that you've never been in before. You always jump in feet first, right?"
yeah.
So I kind of embrace it now and use it as a tool. And when they're staring at me, I'll engage with them openly, right? Like,
Hmm.
as opposed to get me out of here. Now I turn it around and I engage with them.
It's so cool that your story has like multiple angles. There's the shallow water diving, the safety in water and pools and whatnot, but also the mindset and like, you can overcome things and you can persevere and don't let things befall you. And then there's also the very specific thing about, being a quadriplegic, having some kind of disability and living with that. It's it's so cool how many different things you're extrapolating from your situation and using to help, not just one thing. You're awesome, Phil. I appreciate it. When's the comedy career gonna start? Because I feel like that's the next thing.
You know what? It's like, have you ever been in a bar? There's no fucking ramps anywhere. It's like, how am I going to get on stage?
That's the next thing to work on.
I, when I get in my comfort zone, I'd like to think I'm funny. You know,
Yeah.
I, uh, I call myself a gimp with a limp that walks like a pimp. I'm, a, I'm probably one of the most confident men I know because I'm confident with who I've become. And I am extremely grateful for life, Chris, and to be able to connect with people like yourself, right?
Mhm.
And for years, like I mentioned, people said you should write a book. I wish I would have done it sooner, okay? Because I'm getting older
Yeah.
and may not have the strength to get out there and push it as much as I want. But honestly, man, I just want to help people, right? I just want to
Yeah.
empower them. I want to give them a reason to believe in themselves. Um, that's it, man. That's my motive, right?
Yeah. You got to grab life and just run with it. As I told you when we were first starting to chat today, A year ago, my cardiologist came to me and said, like, "Dude, that thing that we thought you had that reversed itself, you're fine. You're good to go." And I said to him, I said, "What do I do now? Like, what am I supposed to do?" And he just looked at me and smiled. He
Live.
said, "You give back." And that for me was the impetus to finally have the courage to start going into mindset and to start this podcast. And here I am a year later having this amazing chat with you. And I feel so blessed. I wake up every day and do the same thing. I wake up every day, and before my eyes are even open, I start to just be grateful for everything that I have in those moments. And that's so huge. I'm so grateful for our time. I want to wrap up. And I think that the irony is we should wrap up with my first question, which was, what's the best thing about being a quadriplegic? What's the best thing about being paralyzed? And I think that you've answered that in this conversation, in that it's not the best thing, but you've turned it in to the best that it can be. What do you think?
I think the easiest when you're presented with two choices in life, right? Be angry or be happy. Give up, give in, or move forward. The hardest decision almost all the time is to be happy, to move forward, to not be bitter. I look around, you know, I went through a really rough time in 2020 for a couple of years. I went through some massive surgeries and almost died. And they're constantly playing the sick kids commercial in the hospital. And I'm thinking, these poor kids, right? Like they did nothing wrong, right? I should be extremely grateful for
Hmm.
where I'm at to have, live in a country where I'm not medically bankrupt. It's easy for me to be grateful when I look at the big picture. Be happy, you know, be grateful. We live in a country where, I'm not medically bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
So it's a mindset whether you're going to be happy or sad. You know?
And you're
It's
you're
a
living.
choice.
Absolutely. And you're living proof of the point that I made earlier, which is like something happened to you and you chose to turn it around, and you've turned it into this incredible thing that is your life, that is inspiring, hopefully thousands, if not millions of other people to A, be grateful, and B, know that no matter what level of challenge hits you, you can get through it and you can turn it into something positive. I'm so grateful that Jay connected us and that we had this chat and that things worked out. When we first started to talk, I was like, how is this going to work? And how will Phil be able to like turn on the camera and stuff? And I didn't know anything, but here we are. Give me a final word, the final Philism for the day to wrap us up and people to take away. And if you want to be humorous, do it, because I keep hearing about this Phil humor and I don't have enough of it.
I can't help but be serious, when you ask me a question like that. And that is every single morning when you wake up and look in the mirror, you do personal affirmations. What was the guy on Saturday Night Live um, that used to? It was Al Franken. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, I don't recall him.
So he do hilarious personal affirmations in the mirror every morning. Okay, you're a warrior. You've got this. It's going to be a good day. You start your day off like that with that mindset. Okay,
Mhm.
you can take on any challenge put in front of you. Don't be overwhelmed. Compartmentalize your problems. It's going to be a good day, right? It's a choice to have good days and bad days. You could have a really shitty day. That doesn't mean tomorrow has to be a bad day. That's just having a shitty day. Tomorrow could be a great day, right?
Yeah.
Every day is a chance for a better day, right? The trauma you went through with the loss of your child. My brother went through the same thing, right? I have a friend right now um, that went through something similar. She's in the Amazon jungle right now, living in a hut studying plant medicine. That's how she's dealing with it. Okay. Um, it's wild. I can talk to her on WhatsApp. She sends me messages from the middle of the Amazon jungle. Everybody deals with everything differently, but you're in control for the most part of your emotions. So whether you want to let them consume you or you want to take a hold of things and take charge of your situation is often a personal choice. And if you're struggling to do it alone, seek professional advice. But can't is often a four-letter word for won't.
You're a rock star, you're an inspiration, you are a man who's helping the world for better, you got tattoos, you go scuba diving or snorkeling, I should say, like, dude, Phil, I can't wait to meet you and hug it out in person.
My latest, most recent tattoo. So I have two that I got done 30 years ago. Okay. The most recent one I got done in 2023 in the Mayan Riviera
Mm.
is a manta ray with a sea turtle in the middle of it. And the tail says Carpe Diem. For those who don't know what Carpe Diem means, it means seize the day, right? Seize the day because every day is an opportunity for a good day. Spread kindness and love.